Hey everybody, delighted to share space today. And I've been thinking about how my psoas has been feeling. And we know the psoas connects the torso to the legs. So there's a couple things that we could do to make it feel better. So one of which is starting on the back in constructive rest. So the feet are actually narrower than hips distance apart. So find what feels best in your body, depending on how it feels. Maybe the arms can release out to the side, but you want to make sure that there is a really peaceful awareness of letting the belly soften. In the moment here, you can allow the breath to find its own way so that the body is actually breathing itself. So there's no rushing, no intensity. And what you really want to try to find is being here for a good 5 minutes. What happens is you'll start to feel the intensity and the engagement of the gripping of the psoas as well as the vagus nerve. You're going to feel them start to soften. And what's happening is we're literally releasing it. My legs are trembling just a tiny bit. And you start to just feel that discharge of intensity, of energy that's been held and gripped. And if you think about what the world at large, and especially now the United States, has been working with around our culture, around our society, and the fabric of our humanity, everybody is tense. Everybody is feeling this somewhat dance between being a bit powerless and also really wanting to take power back. And within the realm of my world, it's very much remembering that I have power to make change. And I do that to begin with myself. And hopefully that then radiates outward. So I can feel a little bit more happening in the back of my legs and on the inner thighs. But for the interest of time, I invite you to stay here for as long as you can. But I'm going to continue a little bit more in terms of finding some length for the psoas so it starts to find stillness. So you may want to have a block. If you don't have a block, a solid or heavy duty cushion, or honestly, even maybe some books, a couple of books, about that thick, maybe even a bit more. So if you're used to going for extensions and maybe deep lunges and things, you can either start on the lower setting of the block or even the middle setting. I'm going to show you the middle setting because I think it'll help get it into the camera. So hips are lifted up onto the block. You want the block right at the base of your sacrum so it's secure. I'm going to keep my gaze up because that way I'm not hurting or wrenching my neck in any way. Again, the feet are going to stay actually sitting bones distance apart this time. And almost like we're pressing up into a bridge, we're going to take the upper arms down, gently snuggle the shoulders a little closer together. And since we don't need to navigate the balance across the pelvis, we'll keep the hips on the block and the arms can find some softness. At this point, though, we are finding and working our Ujjayi breath, victory breath, keeping the engagement on the inhale and the exhale. So we're now taking control of the breath instead of letting the body breathe itself like we did in constructive rest. So this is a great way to hang out, just to let the pelvis soften. And again, in this moment, the only working, which is the most important working, is our breathing. And from here, after a few minutes of that, if you have any back issues, you might feel your sacrum kind of soften. You'll want to bring the feet a tiny bit closer together and then all the way up. If you want, you can put some support by your hands just to make sure that you are properly aligned. Good. I'm going to slide the block up just a tiny bit. And then take the legs straight up towards the ceiling. Flex your feet and really squeeze your quads. You want to keep all the leg muscles engaged deeply. And from here, the arms can soften. And just exhale it down. Hold there for a breath. Big inhale, fill the lungs. Good. Exhale, bring it back up. Excellent. Keep going. Inhale, we'll take it down. Exhale to take it up. And we'll do this for several rounds. Again, in the interest of time, we'll want to make sure that we cover everything. So there's an awareness already in the center of the core that it's engaging and pressing down. Another thing that you might feel too, you kind of see it in my right foot, is that there's going to be a little bit of a challenge of trying not to externally rotate the thigh bones. This is a big ask down along the hip flexors into the psoas, and especially in the curvature in the spine. Again, you can always lower this block. Good, let's do this a few more times. Also notice your face and your jaw. Make sure you're not jamming your teeth together. Getting into the dentist can be expensive and time consuming. Don't want to waste any money there, although good dental hygiene is important. Shout out to the local dentists. Let's take it a few more rounds just to get some warmth and some movement. Good, so if you think about what it would look like if I was standing, it actually would look like a really long stride, like I was walking. That's why walking's so good for you. Good. There's some engagement in the core still, because as I come down, if I didn't, my lower ribs would shoot up. I'm not actively pulling them down, but I'm not letting them pop up. Good. And the breath is strong. Beautiful. Good. So on this one, I'll take the right leg down and let that heel come all the way to the ground. So there's a bit of a feeling in my upper thigh of an external rotation to the side. I'm gently creating an internal rotation on the thigh bones, which is going to broaden the sacrum. This left leg is kind of needing to get a little bit longer, not to the detriment of that SI joint on the block, but staying centered. Good. You may also notice when that leg is up, there's a tiny bit of my left sitting bone is turning outward a little bit. So this is the super exaggeration. I don't know if this is a good angle for it, but we'll try. So really working this down. Good. Big rib cage, lots of breath. Good. On the next exhale, we'll bring that right leg back up. And feel free at this point, because we've had our legs engaged for a long time, you can either wiggle and squiggle, get all the snap, crackle, pops out of your legs, or you could even come back down into supported passive bridge, which is a nice rest. But for the sake of continuing, we'll keep going. So the right leg is going to stay up nice and strong, nice and firm. If you want, you kind of flex the foot, which is going to really keep the muscles engaged. Or if it works better for you, push up through the ball of your foot. That helps engage the back line a little bit more. And so we'll exhale, take that left leg down. Woo! So my left leg is definitely my child that needs a bit more attention. There's an internal rotation that has to happen here. Same thing, that sitting bone's trying to turn outward. I'm going to try to bring it balanced back so that my hip bones and my sitting bones are parallel to the ends of the mat. And the work is here. The work is also deeply in the breath. So when we inhale, we're going to feel that expansion up through the rib cage and even into the diaphragm, obviously, but there's going to be a wee bit of an engagement, a pull along that front line. Good. So really squeezing the right leg, flexing the foot, keeping the muscles engaged there, and simultaneously pressing out through that left leg. So a lot of the adjustments, the subtle adjustments, we can actually take care of when I turn around and do this at the wall, which makes it even more dynamic. Probably seeing that right leg's having a conversation of shakes and wiggles and wanting to give up. So one more quick breath here. And then we can bend the knees, and have a nice little rest. So I'll come back up here, especially after being there for such a long time. Super scoop the tailbone and just let the spine lay down gently. Good. And then from here we can roll to one side and come up. and take the posture to the wall. So what will happen is that we'll get a lot of information back from the wall on how the posture is feeling. So we'll start by getting down onto the ground, make sure you can see, and press the feet into the wall. You want to make sure that there's a lot of engagement, not lazy legs, not lazy feet. Everything's super engaged. We'll start here on the right side by pulling the right knee towards the right shoulder. What will happen here is I can already feel it in my hip. My right hip's trying to slide that way to get away from the work that's happening in the left hip flexor, the left quad, and ultimately then a bit more into the psoas. So keep pressing into the left leg. Then we'll grab either the ankle, the calf muscle, or if you can get your heel, get the heel, and we'll press the right thigh bone down. So it's like half baby, half happy baby, and push that left leg into the wall. So I can really feel it in my hip flexor, in my quad, and the psoas is actually settled. What might happen though is, see, I can almost run a hand right under my left SI joint. So I'm really pressing the entire sacrum straight down. This is a lot of work. It kind of looks like I'm hanging out, but I'm not. There's a lot going on. And then over time, we can pull that right thigh bone down a little bit more. Do you see the cheat? I tried to cheat by pulling the heel back towards me. You want to try to keep a 90-degree angle in that right thigh. Good. And I'm going to release that. Roll it out. And take the right leg down. I always do this because I like to think it's going to make me taller. Pull the left knee towards the left shoulder. And again, make sure that's rooted. That right thigh bone's rooting down and the foot is pushing away. And we draw that left knee towards the left shoulder. And then reach up and grab, again, the calf muscle, depending on where your tightness might happen in your hip. You could even do it like this. The idea is that we're getting the broadness across the pelvis without losing the root of that SI joint. So the whole pelvis, the whole sacrum now is pressing down into the ground, right thigh bone down, left foot flexed, and a little breath opening into that left hip. And again, there's a lot of breath moving across the body, pushing into the right heel. My right ball of the foot was kind of sneaking out there. And especially if you have muscular legs, what you might find is that as the calf muscle pushes, the femur head might not feel like it's dropping. So it's a really interesting part of practice to think from right knee to right hip bone, so the thigh bone, the femur bone, dropping. And that actually, you can almost see it. It comes back down as that SI joint presses back down. I actually fired up more into the core, and we're pulling that left thigh bone down. And then in the interest of your own practice, over time, you can start to take that left leg out. Good. You can inhale it in to settle. Exhale out to reach out. And then you can work the hamstring work there. Good. And then just to settle everybody back out, find a balance again. Push the feet into the floor and into the wall and just take a rest here. Active legs, rest of the body is softening. Just to keep a little bit of that awareness coming out of the core, out of the psoas and all the hip flexors. And then gently you can release and roll across the sacrum. This is one of those practices that might talk to you a couple days later. I hope that it supports you however you need in your practice. Namaste.